Guys, Dan Hendriksen here. We're at Torquay Golf Club and today we're going to be reviewing the Ping G425 Irons. I'm going to give you some ideas on what they look like, what they sound like, give you some info from what Ping are telling me. I'm also going to take them onto the golf course and we're going to give you some numbers from the studio. Now, if you are new to the channel and you like what you're seeing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. But for now, let's get on and hit these clubs. Okay, first impressions looking down at the ball with the club is, I've got to say, visually for a game improvement iron, I absolutely love it. I mean, there's not a massive amount of offset that you've probably seen in the past with lots of Ping and game improvement irons, but visually looking down, I love the fact that when you move into the 8 iron, you're going into more of a rounded sort of look, which is common with Ping and lots of other companies. But for me, that just gives me a sense of almost like I've got a little bit more sort of feel with the club, like kind of moving into more of a kind of like a wedge look when I move into the 8 iron, which is quite nice. The other noticeable thing that I've got here, and I've just picked up the 6 iron now, is the blade length itself is really nice and squat. It's kind of short. If you remember back in the old G range of irons that Ping have brought out, their length of blade from the heel to the toe has always been quite long and kind of big, and I think they kind of did that in order to give us a little bit more sort of real estate looking down at the ball, to give us maybe a little bit more confidence. But for me personally, looking down, I'm used to looking down at more of a smaller bladed iron. This one actually kind of falls nicely into my eye line, so it's giving me plenty of confidence when I look down at it from the game improvement side of things, a nice thicker top line, all of those things, but it just sits in my eye better because it's just that little bit smaller when I look down at the ball. We've got to talk about the noise though. It's quite loud. I've said it previously in the G425 driver when I did that review. That noise was like deafening in this studio. It was pinging around the room. That one is quite a loud noise. It's not loud enough that it would sort of, people would turn their heads at it, but it's certainly loud enough that it kind of pops. It's like a poppy sound in my ear as I hit the shot. It's not the type of thud that I kind of want to get, but then it kind of falls in line with lots of game improvement irons over the years. So anytime these companies give me an opportunity to have a little look inside the head, I will always try and open it up. So we have got a tungsten weight in here. So this is a tungsten weight that screws into the toe. You've also got a little bit more weighting around the perimeter of the whole club. The idea is to try and give us as much forgiveness as we possibly can throughout the whole golf club, right the way through the set. The other thing Ping are saying about this iron is that they've got a variable thickness across the face. So we've kind of seen this in drivers and woods. If you think about sort of flash face technology in the Callaway launch, that was talking about variable thickness around the face. And the idea for that is to try and give us, obviously, forgiveness in the iron, but they're trying to generate more ball speed for off-centered strikes. So if they move the sort of flex of the face or the variance of the thickness of the face around, they can still give you the ball speed with shots that aren't necessarily out the middle of the club. Now, for me, that's a fantastic technology in the fact that it just gives you, again, a little bit more confidence that when you hit the ball, you can still get it out there if it doesn't quite come out the middle. So, like many other game improvement irons, what we're seeing with this particular set is a set that's trying to generate us a higher launch off the face and giving us a steeper descent angle into the green. And they've kind of tried to do that by a little bit of undercutting under the sort of sole point here to try and get it up in the air, but they've also undercut in the top rail as well. So they're trying to create almost like a hinge or a flexing point in order to get that ball to launch up in the air and then ultimately come down a little bit steeper, giving that ball a chance to stop quicker. Now, for me, that's quite important because if we look at the lofts of these clubs, I mean, the 8 iron in this particular set is at 34.5 degrees. So that is very, very similar to my current 7 iron. So really, when I'm hitting these clubs, I'm thinking like the 7 iron in the set is closer to my 6 iron. Well, if that's the case, then ultimately, if I want it to perform like a 7 iron, then it's got to launch high and still stop, because I know that the chances are the spin is going to be a lot lower from this particular set. So Ping have done quite a lot of analysis when it comes to frequencies the sound and the feel that we get from these golf clubs. I think probably over the years they maybe had some complaints which have enabled them to maybe dial in a little bit more into what really the consumer kind of wants. Now, if you look at the back of this club, we've also got to think about shop appeal, shelf appeal. How does it look from a retail point of view? If I walked into a shop, how does this club look to me? Now, we can look at this as possibly marketing, which ultimately it kind of is, with the stamping and how it kind of looks at us. But there's also been some detailing going into this. Now, they've created a 3-piece multi-material that's gone into the back of this club. And the idea is that they're trying to cover as much of the face as they possibly can, again, enabling it to dampen the sound a fraction to just get those frequencies right for the individual player. So the last two things that I want to mention from these clubs is Arcos in the grip. Now, Ping call it smart grip. So basically what it is, you've got the Arcos system that's been put into the butt end of this club, and it's built in with the grips, which is quite a nice thing because they used to have the screw-in ones, which are available as well. But to have it built into the grip is quite a nice touch. It doesn't feel like it's kind of intruding into the swing. Now, the idea of Arcos, if you haven't had a chance to look at that, it's basically an inbuilt stat system, so it will cover every single shot that you hit, and you can put it into an app and it will give you some feedback on how you're performing. Now, the last thing as well is the hydro pearl finish on the iron. So I've always loved the look of the hydro pearl finish. When you look down at the ball, it just gives you that sort of classy look to me when I look down at it. A nice kind of, not too chromy, but just a nice sort of dull metal look when you look down at the club. And the idea of the hydro pearl finish is to try and get as much of the moisture off the face as you possibly can. And the important bit of that is that you need to understand that you're going to lose spin on the ball. As soon as you get water between club face and ball, it's going to reduce those spin numbers, or certainly give you inconsistencies in your spin numbers. You may have seen it on the golf course when you get maybe a flyer and it airmails the green. That is because you've reduced the spin number and it's flown through the air just that little bit hotter than what you would expect. So Ping have really dialed into that over the years and tried to create this finish on the face that enables you to pull the water away and then give you more consistency when it comes to your spin numbers. Now, before I give you the numbers of what these clubs are getting, I've taken these clubs also to Ashbury Manor with Lee, and we did some filming over there. So let's take you over there now to see how we got on the golf course. The wedge, the pitching wedge in a set. Now, this is quite an important club for me because I'm a player that likes to have the pitching wedge in the set from the set. I don't have like a specialist wedge that I put in the golf bag. I've tried it and I much prefer the wedge set that they bring out with the club. So when I'm ever testing a new set of irons, I really focus on the pitching wedge, and I think it's something that a lot of players should focus on. It's a club that you're going to have to sort of really work with to play those little quiet shots around the greens, and sometimes in these sort of game improvement irons like I've got here, they can feel a bit clumpy, they can feel a bit almost feelless when I'm chipping around the green. So I'm just going to put this to the test around this green now and just see what it feels like, see how it performs, see how it interacts with the ground, and see if it's going to work for me putting this in the set. First impressions out on the golf course, love it. Absolutely love it. When it comes to game improvement wedges, they feel a bit clumpy. This one, however, looks and feels fantastic. Now, I will say this a lot about Ping clubs, but that little white streak at the bottom of the iron there in the bottom groove, that is absolutely brilliant, and I wish a lot more other manufacturers would do it. Whether Ping have the sort of rights just to keep that on there, I don't know, but for me it just enables me to be able to square that club face up just that little bit easier when I'm playing those little pitchy shots around the greens. The visuals on it though, it doesn't look too offset to me. It looks a nice small profile looking down at the golf club as well, which again, over time, certainly Ping will be one of these types of companies that would create a very clumpy, big looking wedge. But this one absolutely ticks all the boxes for me with a game improvement set. Leaky out to the right. Great strike though. Feel off the face of these irons is so nice. I'm going to put this out there. These are probably some of the easiest clubs I have ever hit. I mean, I've caught that quite a way out of the toe there. The feel off the face was no different than a normal solid feel I'd get off a set of irons out the middle of the club. But to get it out of the toe that far and still get a really nice feedback, some really good feel off the face, that's quite impressive. And the height as well. The height that I get from these irons is quite noticeably different to what I'm getting with my own irons. Numbers then, let's start off with the 8 iron in the G425 iron. So we've got 114 as a ball speed off the face. We're launching it at 22.5 degrees and it's spinning at 5,794 RPMs on an average. If you compare that to what I'm getting from the 7 iron in my Titleist blade, we've got 114.7, so a fraction quicker off the face. It's launching at 20.5. We're getting 6,297 in the spin. So you can see the differences here, that we're possibly getting a bit more launch out of the 8 iron in the Ping compared to what we're getting out of the Titleist, but what we're getting is higher launch, lower spin. Lower launch, lower spin. Exactly what you would kind of expect to see from these two particular models. And then peaking out wise, the Titleist peaking out at 34 yards high compared to 37 yards high with the Ping, and then 156 carry with both of the irons. So I'm just going to give you some numbers with the 4 iron and the 6 iron from the set as well. So 4 iron to start with, 131 on a ball speed off the club face, launching at 15.7, spinning at 3,571 revs on an average, and peaking out at 34 yards high with a carry of 203 yards on an average. Now that's probably going about 10 yards further than what my current 4 iron is going, which kind of falls quite nicely in line with what we were getting from the 8 iron numbers. The 6 iron is going 124 mile an hour off the club face, so ball speed off the face is solid. We've got 17.4 of a launch and spinning at 4,500 revs and peaking out at 34 yards high with an average carry of 182. Now that again falls very much in line with what I'm getting out of my current 5 iron, maybe just a fraction lower in the spin of what I would normally get. So there you go, there's a little insight into the G425 iron that's been brought out by Ping. Now for me personally, I love the look of these clubs. I think these are going to really appeal to players of maybe a lower handicap point that maybe want the extra bit of confidence from a game improvement iron. I think Ping have really dialed into that when it comes to the sound. I think they've dialed into it when it comes to the looks and the size of the profile of the club, and also the slightly less offset look. From the pitch and wedge point of view, when you saw it out on the golf course, loving the look of that, the feel, what I was getting from it, the control, I think is really, really good. And I know that they make this in a gap wedge and a lob wedge in the set as well. But could I play these clubs? I think I probably could over time. I think, to be honest with you, I don't think that I'm in that position where I want to go to a set that's game improvement right now. But for ease, for looks, forgiveness, these clubs just absolutely work. Put your comments down below. I'd like to hear what you think about the new G425 iron that Ping have released out for this year. And will you be looking at testing these clubs? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Don't forget, if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up if you like what you're seeing, and always stay safe, and we'll catch up with you again soon.